Hello and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And as always, I have a fabulous guest with me today. We're going to learn a lot about finding our inner horsepower, and I'm pretty excited about that. His name is Shane Jacob. He is a certified life coach, professional horseman, entrepreneur, author, and host of the Horsemanship Journey podcast. He integrates horsemanship with personal development to empower people to find and use their own inner horsepower, to develop the confidence and strength to blast past their perceived weaknesses and become whomever they desire. Shane launched the Horsemanship Journey in 2021, and it has become the leader in personal development for horse people. The great horsemen have always known that in order to have the best outcome with horses, the primary focus needs to begin within ourselves. The Horsemanship Journey combined that idea with a proven system and made it available for everyone who is interested in pursuing excellence. Shane, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
It's an honor. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, you are welcome. And I'm always just delighted and thrilled and honored that men have the courage to come on a show named the FemiNinja Project.
Well, I think it's great, and I'm glad that you're open to male and female. I've heard a lot of good male guests on your show. So again, thanks for having me.
You are welcome. And, you know, I always like to say, and I'm kind of half joking, men are people too. And I just don't like the amount of man bashing that's out there. It gives me the heebie-jeebies, especially since I wouldn't be where I am right now if it were not for all the many magnificent men in my life. So, you know, kudos to all you guys out there who are doing such a great job.
I can appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, this is we're not in this alone when I talk about individuals or sexes. I mean, I'm totally with you on that. This is we need all of us to make the world go around, to make it work, and actually to have all that we can accomplish. I told my wife, I'll make one quick comment on that if I could, is I truly believe that I cannot by myself. I'm recently married, but just last month.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. I believe that it is not possible for me to achieve and become all that I can without the other part of this. And I see it. There's so much evidence. I mean, if you look at that, it's like the amount of happiness, the amount of longevity, and actually the amount of your bank account. You know, there's so many things that depend on good relationships. And with men and women. So yeah, glad to hear you say that. Right here with you.
Yeah, and it just really disturbs me. It's like trying to separate us and put us into different categories and, you know, different labels on us, and that just doesn't sit right with me. So yeah, so I think that, and that's another reason why I do the show. I really believe in having people on the show, talking to people and having these incredible conversations that we can make the world a better place. And I'm really hoping that.
Agreed. Let's do it.
Okay, so you're a horseman, obviously. So for the people who are just listening to the audio and not watching this on YouTube, go check out the YouTube video, because Shane really is the true cowboy. Love the hat, love the shirt, and I absolutely love the background, and I love your logo.
Well, thanks so much.
So when did you first get involved with horses?
Well, Cheryl, I grew up as a kid. My family was in the horse business, or excuse me, my family was in the sheep business, which meant they had horses. We used horses as a tool. They weren't recreation back then. They were used to tend to the sheep and range sheep, thousands out on the western ranges here. And so we had horses, but I always wanted to be. We rode horses, but they weren't like our specialty or our recreation. We had fun. I kind of fancied myself as a cowboy, and I saw the rodeo cowboys and watched all the westerns, and I was named after a movie called Shane, which is an American Western classic with Alan Ladd. So I wanted to be a cowboy. I mean, I want to be like those guys and do all the cool things cowboys do. And so as soon as I had a chance, when I was a teenager in my early 20s, I tried to be a rodeo cowboy. I thought I'd be really good, and I was terrible, so that's where it all that's where it began. A lot of us in my generation, we grew up watching movies and seeing, and that's just something that has driven me. And I say that, when you look at whatever your thing is, um, whatever the thing is that drives you from inside or where you want to go, a lot of times we can look at those things and we think about, we think a lot of times we can think that sometimes those things, those desires of our hearts, maybe we might feel like we're indulging in something that we shouldn't. We might feel guilty because we're going after it. We're not, maybe we don't feel like we're being responsible. 100 different things about the desires of our hearts, but I've come to believe that the desires of our hearts are truly, I mean, we ought to go for them, man, because they're the stuff that's inside of us that we're able to use our God-given talents and become all that we can be. And so to listen to those things, I kind of always didn't, but I'm telling you, if something's driving you from inside, really pay attention to it and listen to it, because that's going to be it's going to be the best for you, and it's going to be the contribution that you can give to the world if you develop that and go after it. And so eventually, after a lot of things in my life, I've really tried to go after that, and I believe in that. It's been good for me.
I love that you said that, because I think a lot of times when we have our heart's desire, um, and we know what it is, that oftentimes we might be discouraged from following it, because, I know that when I was growing up, we went to college, we were expected to have a degree in either education or, nursing or that type of thing. And I just wanted to be somebody who could, like sing and dance and play and do things that were, beautiful and fun. Maybe even just selling Estee Lauder was, to me, that would be something that I would like to do, because it was pretty, it was soft, it was fluffy. And I ended up in the medical field doing things that were not pretty and not fluffy. And it was just really a shock to my system, because I had not really intended to do that. But I think a lot of times we're discouraged from following our heart's desires because it's frivolous, or you can't make a living by doing it.
Yeah, I interviewed a man named Darren LaCroix, who's an author and a comedian, on our show, the Horsemanship Journey show. Um, and Darren says that we need to. I also interviewed Sean Covey about the 7 habits, that his father was Stephen Covey, the 7 habits of highly effective people, and they both talked about imagination. And I used to actually think that using my imagination was kind of a bad use of time. It seemed like that's what kids do, don't, stay out of that area. We're going to focus on the real deal here. But our imagination and our driven by the desires of our hearts, if we focus on that and don't, and really kind of let it happen, and I don't know, sometimes you have to be careful who you tell about that, because I'm going to come back to Darren LaCroix. He said, sometimes we have to do like kids do. Nah, I'm not listening to you. Don't tell me what this thing is, because you can really go, if you let those inside influences come in, sometimes in an effort to protect you, they can kind of crush you down, so it's Zig Ziglar said that too. He said that things that you want to do, be careful, be very selective on who you choose to tell. Things that you don't want to do, like if you're going to quit smoking or drinking or whatever, a lot of times if you tell people that, they'll help you get through that. But things that you want to accomplish, sometimes we let those outside influences, and a lot of times, like I said, in an effort to protect us, kind of sneak in. But if we keep really focusing again on those desires of our hearts, I really think it's a big deal in becoming as much as we can in this life.
I'm so happy that you brought up like that kid-like mentality, because I say that all the time with movement. We need to remember what it was like to play, remember what it was like to be able to use our imagination to make up games and make up, build forts and all the things that we did when we were kids that are poo-pooed as you start getting older, because we're too old for that. And that's another label that society puts on us. Maybe it's society, our family, whomever, our friends, that we're too old to think like a child or play like a child. And I think that's just really the wrong way of looking at things, because that's when we do things because we think we have to, we should do them, not because we could do them.
Yep. have and should are words that I haven't accomplished this, but I'm working on eliminating them about when I talk about things about myself, what I should do, what I have to do, things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I eliminated should from my vocabulary quite a while back. And then one of my friends actually caught me on it because we were just texting something. And I said, should is a word that should be taken out of the vocabulary.
Gotcha.
So, oh, well, there you go. Every now and again, we have to be, cognizant and vigilant.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you were a bad rodeo rider. That's something you don't want to be bad at.
No, it didn't. My rodeo career was short-lived. I don't know why. I wrestled in high school. I thought I was tough as nails, and I thought I could ride any. I'd ridden all my dad's horses that were broken. I thought I could just stick on the back of everything, but I'm here to tell you I have a special respect for those rodeo kids. Right now is the National Finals Rodeo this time of year in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's the best stock, the best horses and livestock. And the best, these professional athletes are really something to behold, and I have a special respect for them. It's quite a, they are tremendous athletes. The horses and the livestock and the guys on them.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. The horses
And
and the
gals.
bulls are pretty. They're the athletes too.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be pitted up against one of them. But so then you're not a rodeo rider, and then what did you do after that?
I'll tell you something about. I think that perhaps all of us, I don't know, I guess I'll speak for myself. When I was a young man in this period of time in my teens and 20s, I really can't explain why, but I thought something was terribly wrong with me. I thought that I didn't measure up, and I've tried to kind of pinpoint an idea why. I mean, I think that my view of my childhood, my family experience, my parents, my siblings, I really don't have I can't find an excuse for it, if that's what the right word is, but I can't find a reason that makes sense. I just did. So, and what I mean by that is I thought I didn't fit in. I thought I was lesser than. I thought everybody else was a little bit more, and I just didn't have the confidence to be out and interact the way that I thought to. Super shy, just really introverted and inside, and kind of worried about what was going on. And as a result of that, I started drinking, and that felt pretty good. And I didn't feel that way anymore. It made me feel pretty good, and so I got pretty good at drinking. I became a total professional, and and what I mean by that is I drank to excess for daily for 20 years, in more than 20 years. I mean, I didn't miss a day. I mean, 100%er. Let me be clear. There were 2 days that I was hospitalized in the course of 20 plus years that I did not drink to excess. And that is straight up the way it was. And so as an attempt to try to feel better or fit in or make myself okay, which I kind of felt during those times when I was drinking, I ended up destroying a good part of my, I don't know about destroying, but not being all I could be for sure, and not being able to cultivate good relationships, and having a terrible negative impact on a lot of people, including myself. It was very destructive, and yeah, it was pretty tough there for quite a while. And I kind of thought at one point that I was just gonna, die pretty young, drunk, tipped over somewhere. And I was glad to be able to be set free from that. Eventually I felt like I was trapped in that, like I couldn't get out, because for a few moments on a daily basis, I would feel okay, but then I wouldn't in the next day. And so then it would just be this terrible cycle of knowing that what I was doing was wrong and living inconsistent with what I knew to be right. And because I knew that this lifestyle was not good for me, was not helping for me, but then I continued to do it day in and day out. And having watched and seen friends and family with addictions it's so hard to watch. And so I think back of the people that were around me and near me and that loved me, I'm very thankful for that it must have been so hard for them to watch. I'm still here with you.
I know
It
you
must
are.
have been so, excuse me for that little listeners, I just had a quick video glitch, but I'm right here back here with you. I I I was just slowly destroying, the things that I wanted to be, and I felt trapped in that. Um, I thought about this. Um, I thought about this for a long time, and I knew people that had, that tried to stop smoking, that stopped smoking for years, that tried to quit drinking, that try and try. The key word here is try. And I watched a lot of people try and fail at the things that they wanted to change in their life, multiple things besides smoking and drinking, but that was the thing I was keying in on mainly. And a lot of them weren't successful, or if they were, they weren't successful for long term for what they said they wanted to do. And then that ended up back smoking or back drinking or back to whatever the buffering addiction thing that wasn't serving them well. I thought about this literally for over a year in a serious way. I thought about it for many years I'm a trapped way, but I began to try to think about this in a way that how can I really stop this pattern that I'm in? Because I thought I wasn't going to be able to stop it, like I said, and I would just die young and unfulfilled and kind of wrecked and sad. As I was thinking about this for, like I said, over the course of a year, I didn't know if I could do it, but I knew that I needed to try to do something about this. And so I had some faith that I could give it a hell of a shot. I knew I didn't want to be one of the people that it didn't last, but I didn't know if I could. So on the second Saturday of January 2016, it was just like any other day. I probably had drank way to excess. I remember we were coming back from a horseshoeing clinic in California. My brother was driving. It was late at night. He should have been driving because I was drinking a lot. It's on a Saturday, just like any other day. The next Sunday, I got in my old truck and I drove down to here in Las Vegas to a detox place. Now, I was worried that I was concerned about withdrawals from alcohol would cause me a seizure and then I'd die anyway. So I went to check myself into this place, which was quite an experience. I'm kind of used to running my own little company, and they took my cell phone and all my personal belongings. And that was I've been to jail too, and it was kind of like that. It wasn't kind of the treatment I thought I deserved, but I checked myself in nonetheless. And I stayed there for 2 days, and I walked out of there, and all I knew was I'm going to be sober today. I went straight to an AA meeting, and I participated in AA for a little while. But every day since then, and it got easier, and I realized, that the idea that if we make a commitment to ourselves, if we have a no matter what reason, if we have a total commitment to ourselves, okay, so sometimes that's called our why, right? I knew I was going to die. I knew I was I had wrecked a 17-year-old marriage. I knew my company was going downhill. I knew that my health was going to shit. Something bad's going to happen. And so I had a lot of reason, right? I had I had a good why, but I didn't know if I could do it. I had a little bit of faith I could keep trying. But I think a lot of times where I failed in the past, I didn't fail in this one, but where I have, and I see people fail, is when we come up with this, no matter what reason, our brain starts going, hey, you can't do that. Hey, that's too much. Don't do it. I don't know, Shane. I don't know if you can do that. That's a little bit too much, and your brain starts freaking out because you made this ginormous commitment telling you that this is not going to happen. You're not capable of this. And what we have to do now is utilize our courage. Okay. Once that you have made this commitment, this no matter what commitment, we have to exercise our courage. Now, you look at courage, you think about courage, and courage, we all think about courage as a positive emotion, but I'm telling you, Cheryl, it does not feel good when you're doing it.
I know.
It does not feel good. And so, as tough as it may be, we kind of have to embrace courage and know going into it, hey, this is not going to feel good, but I'm going to do it anyway. And this is, as we exercise our courage, we develop our capability. Because see, in the beginning, I didn't have confidence that I would be able to quit this drinking. I had no idea. I just knew I'd try. I had confidence that I would try, but I didn't know, because I didn't have my past to base my future on. I didn't have confidence in this thing that I could do it. I didn't know, right? So just think about this to yourself. What is it that you want to do in the future? You can't have total confidence in that thing because you haven't done it before. So what can you base it on? So these are the steps. It's a no matter what commitment, right? And no matter what reason, a statement that you make a commitment, then know that courage is going to be tough, and then exercise it. Because as you exercise it, you develop your capability. Then it becomes easier. Then you can develop a little bit of confidence in the thing. See, now after a week, I'm going, man, I might be able to do this. After a month, I got a 30-day chip from AM. Like, I'm on a roll here. This is getting a little bit easier. And several years later, it's not even a part of my life, because now I have confidence. I have the past I can base the future on, and it's become so much easier. It's just kind of a thing of the past, and I moved on way past it a long time ago. Those little 4 steps, which is commitment, courage, develop the capability, and then have the confidence, are really usable things in things that I still use with things that I want to change, and that you can change if there's something that you want to do. And I make it sound like 4 little teeny steps, and it's a damn process, and it's hard. And this courage thing is for real, but I'm telling you, it works.
Couple of things that just popped into my head as you were talking. 2 days in rehab, and you were able to walk out, and they didn't say, hey, maybe you're not ready for this yet? Or did you just, how did that work?
I was going to I'm also an auctioneer. I was going to back then. I was going to an advanced auctioneer academy. So it was 2 nights and 3 days. I might have missed the bulk a little bit, but I was there for 2.5, 3 days, 2 nights.
But still, that's not a lot of time for rehab.
No. Well, my main thing was, the whole detox, because I thought I was maybe I could, die. So, but you're right about that. It's not a lot of time, but I did rely on that, and then off I went. And
I thought maybe it was just the fact that they took your cell phone that was encouraging you to get out of there.
That was part of it. Yeah.
I figured. Okay. And, when you talk about courage, and, everybody thinks that, courage is something that we just have inside of us, that we do all the time. And I like the fact that you said courage isn't easy. Yeah, and it's not like courage is, this is a description I heard one time, that courage isn't the absence of fear. That courage is taking action in spite of it. And I thought, oh, that's really a good one to remember.
It is a good one.
And courage is contagious too. Not only with other people, but within yourself. Like you said, once you start practicing it and doing things that are really kind of frightening, you maybe just take baby steps. That at least is a start to get that courage muscle flexing.
Yes. Very good.
And then you can go from there. So then when did you decide that you would become a life coach? And what, I'm really curious as to what the reaction was from your friends, family, and the people around you.
With the drinking thing?
No, just becoming a life coach.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's I've had mixed reaction,
I'll bet.
I've had a lot of mixed reaction. Some people are still probably scratching their head. Some people are believers, and some aren't. Their people are all over the map, but whatever they are, they are. I know that. Here's what I know, and here's what I figured out. Okay, I have been, like I said, through this whole period, and I'm of my life's journey, since the time that I can remember, I wanted to be the horse guy. I wanted to be good with horses. I wanted to do all the cool things cowboys do, and I wanted to ride horses and be a good horse trainer, and I wanted to be able to communicate with horses. And you know what I learned after a long period of time? Okay, what I learned is that in order to excellence in horsemanship is basically three main categories. Number one is you have to have the skill and the technique. You have to know how to do it. Okay, this applies to not just horses, but everything. You have to know how to do it. You have to have the skill and the technique. You have to know how to get the horse to do what you want it to do. You have to know all the knowledge about that. The next thing that you have to do is you have to do it. You have to have the experience, the time on task. You can't be good unless you're out there day in and putting the time and the hours in and making it happen. And the third is you have, this is the part we all miss, the mindset or the integrity of character inside of ourselves is what drives the other two and what controls the whole thing. So when I figured that out, see, the thing about horses is they're their own entities. Okay, it's a relationship. It's just my relationship with you, Cheryl, and everyone else. It's a relationship. This is not a one-sided deal, right? And so I have more influence than at certain times with this in this horse deal. I have the influence, but I don't have the control. This is a relationship. It's going to go both ways. And the thing that drives and controls all of it, okay, now you have to be excellent, okay, you have to have the knowledge and skills. You just have to have it. You have to put the time on task in. But I'm telling you, the most important thing is how you go about it, your mindset, and what is really going on inside of your heart and your head. That is what will impact the whole other two pieces and overall. And so when this really became clear to me, I'm like, you know what? Trainers, we're out here and I'm out here and I'm doing the things and I'm doing the things and I'm doing the things, but what's rattling around inside my heart and my soul is being reflected through these horses. Okay, so I can go out and do the technique, right? I can do the technique with the horse, but he's like, hey, what's going on with you? And he's reacting to that. So I mean, and so this plays into me and you too, right? And everything, there's so many lessons I learned from horses, but that's where the whole life coach idea came from, because I saw people in the horse business that we're so outside of ourselves. It's like total irresponsibility. It's like, my horse won't do this, or my horse, blah, blah, blah. And he did this and he did that. And I mean, it's like, hey, well, you're there too. And you're the biggest influence in this thing. And what we really have to do is start looking right here to get the results that we want. Like I said, we can't control these horses, and I can't control you, Cheryl. I can't control my wife or the people in my life, but I can surely influence them in a major way. And what I can control is right here. It's me. And so that's where the idea of life coach has come from. And we've been able to help people do so much. It's just fun to be in this business because we help people move into careers where they're actually doing what we talked about earlier. They're going after the desires of their hearts. We also help people that have fear from horses or really anything, but a lot of times we get confidence issues and fear and doubt issues really seriously creep in because we're dealing with these ginormous 1,000-pound creatures so we get some stuff rattling around and we deal with that. I get to see the results of that, and it's fun to see, and it's fun to help. Every day isn't super fun, and sometimes it's the ups and downs, but this is a super rewarding experience to watch people progress through life in the way that they want to.
Well, the one word that keeps popping into my mind that when I'm listening to you talk about this, and I love your passion, it's very exciting, but the one word that just I'm clinging to it, and it's just a bunch of horse sense. I mean, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's so practical.
Horses are, let me give you a couple of ideas about horses, about some of the lessons that I relate and you can relate to ourselves, because you don't have to have a horse or be in the horse business to learn lessons from horses. There's so many things that we can learn, and they're horses, but they have a lot to offer us. I mean, they're just like one of God's magnificent creations. I heard you earlier today before this show, telling a little bit about your experience with your amazing experience that you've had with horses, because they just bring it, they can bring so much joy to our hearts just by kind of showing up, so it's a pretty good start. But horses, just to begin with, when in the horse business, we look at horses, we think about what makes a good horse. Okay. Well, if we're a competitor, we want one that has a lot of athletic ability, one that has a lot of shine to it. I mean, he looks like an athlete and he can do athletic maneuvers. The most important thing with horses is the same thing as what's important to us. Okay. In the horse business, we call it the tri-level, or the willingness, or the one that really wants to please, to please. That wants to easily to be our partner. It's agreeable. Okay. And horses are like us. Sometimes they're born with their own individual personalities, but that the same thing that makes good horses is what makes good people. When I look at the relationships that I have, okay, and my contribution to those relationships, a big part of that is how much that I am willing to put in and contribute to this relationship. How much am I going to give of me to you in order to make this thing as good as it can be? That's a good place to start. The next thing about horses is when we show up, horses absolutely have no judgment. None. There is no preconceived, well, I heard this about Shane and he's now, I think that's him coming this way. That's not the way it works. You show up and they are totally open, totally equal. It's like we're on an even playing ground. Okay. Super important, very interesting to think about how we operate compared to how that horse operates. The next thing is that what they do, now we begin this relationship with our horse, and horses they forgive easily. They're very forgiving. If you keep being unfair, they're going to remember and you're going to get a reaction, but they're very resilient when it comes to forgiveness. And we're not perfect. We can go about this thing. I mean, we're just human beings. They don't speak English. They're this amazing creature, but there's going to be some communication breakdowns. It is inevitable. Okay. Or we're just going to go, oh man, that was a mistake. My timing was bad. I added a little pressure when I should have released. And so little things like this, little nuances in this thing. So it's not going to be a perfect thing. Life, that's just the way it goes. But horses, they forgive easily. If we say, oh, I recognize that and I change that behavior, they'll almost immediately forgive and forget and move on as if it never happened. Unless we repeatedly do this, which makes sense, they shouldn't, that would just be not good sense for us to continue into something that is damaging us, right?
Right.
On a repeated basis, unless somebody recognizes it and says, hey, Cheryl, I recognize that I did this. I apologize. I'm not going to do this anymore. And if you can let it go, then maybe we can be okay.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so. We need to be more like the horses then for forgiveness.
Yeah. It's easier said than done, but I think
yes, it is. I was raised in a tribe that can hold a grudge for 400 years, and we have the history to prove it. So that was a tough lesson to learn, but you learn it. And I was telling you before we started the recording that I have had some incredible experiences with horses. I'm not a horse person. I have no, background in it, but they always seem to show up in my life at a time when I really need them. And I'll never forget this one very profound experience. My husband and I were in the mountains, and we were hiking this big, huge trail, blah, blah, blah. And I was going through a really, really bad time in my life. I mean, it was ugly. And all of a sudden, these people came around the corner on these horses. And this horse was, oh, she was so beautiful. She was huge and she was red. And I stopped and I just went and looked at her. And the horse was kind of looking at me. And I looked at the guy and I thought, I know it's not nice to be, you don't want to touch somebody else's pet or horse or whatever. And I looked at him and I said, can I please pet her? And he looked down at me and says, that's what she's waiting for. But I had this incredible moment, and it was just like, oh, this horse was so wonderful, and she was just so gentle and so sweet. And it was just the way she was looking at me. It's like, you know something. And I mean, it just kind of changed my entire day. Was just, I still, the memory of the horse and the smell. Like I said, I told you earlier, I love the smell of horses. If you can come up with a perfume, you bottle that smell, I'd be wearing it all the time. I know it's a little gross, but I would do it.
Mhm.
And then there was another time I had a client who specialized in Gestalt equine therapy. He was a psychologist or a psychotherapist. So I worked with him, for one of his issues. And he was so taken by the work that I did. He says, I want you to come up to my house. It's like a mini ranch. He had 4 horses, I think. He says, I want you to work with my students and teaching us the same method that you're doing. He says, and then I'll get you on one of the horses. And I said, I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to do that. And he says, oh, no, come on, I'll help you. Well, the reason why he was seeing me is he had had a really bad accident with a horse. And it was the second one he had. And I'm like, I'm not feeling so good about, you being my coach here. So, I did go up to his house. I did teach them the lesson. And he says, okay, now we're going to go to the horses. And I'm thinking, it still isn't a good idea. So he drags me through, and the biggest horse, I'd never seen a horse this enormous in my life. And he turned and he looked at me. And as we're walking in, Dewey's giving me the instructions. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't get behind him. He will kick you. Don't do this. And for God's sake, do not let him headbutt you, because his head weighs more than you do. And I'm thinking, why am I here? And then all of a sudden, the horse saw me, and he very slowly started walking towards me. And I'm going, oh my goodness, here it comes. And he lowered his head. And I'm going, he's going to headbutt me. And he just like nudged me a little bit with his head. And I swear that horse winked at me. And it was almost like he's like, it's okay. I'll get you through this. I'll help you out here. And I did not get on him, but I had the greatest experience with him. I just loved this horse so much. I've got some great photographs, and it was just the most incredible experience that I had. Now, still, when I think about it, it just warms my heart.
That is a great story. I think it might have been Winston Churchill that said that there's something about the outside of a horse that's good for the inside of men and women.
Oh, and it's absolutely true. I totally believe that. So now I want to go out and find a horse. Maybe I'll do that this afternoon, see if I can find one. So anyway, now you do work with horse people, but of course, as a life coach, do you work with people without horses, or people who are not used to horses? Or like somebody like me, I would come running, with open arms going, yeah, take me to the horse. But how do you do that? I mean, do you work with the general public who is
We
not
do.
horse savvy?
We do. We have a little, a horse slant to it. We use these lessons from horses, and things are kind of definitely tilted that way.
Mhm.
But yeah, we deal with everybody. The thing of it is the things that we learn from horses we apply to ourselves, and everything is coming from here. So whether you're a horse lover, horse owner, or you just if you have an appreciation for a horse, or maybe even if you don't, the lessons still apply
Mhm.
the same.
Mhm. Absolutely. So now you are a speaker.
Excuse me.
So do you go out and, talk to the general public? Do you talk about horses? Do you talk about, how much we can learn from them? Do you promote yourself as a life coach? I mean, what do you do in your speaking tour?
Well, I'm hoping to do more of that when my book gets released. I've done some amount of speaking, a little bit amount of speaking, and I talk about the things that we're talking about today, about
Mhm.
the life lessons and about things that we can learn from horses. We've scratched the surface a little bit about the things that we can that we've noticed about horses. There's so many more things. Horses are such good listeners, and everything matters. That's a great lesson with horses, that everything matters. And in the interaction, when we come into proximity with horses, that everything, I mean, everything matters. They're listening and picking up on everything. And that's a super good lesson for us too. So I mostly just talk about the things that I've learned in my life, and the things that I've learned from horses, and the the things that we've picked up on that we can really take in and do something with and do something about. I'm all about the idea of we need to have the philosophy, but we need to have the nuts and bolts of how to get it done also.
I love the fact that you brought up the point that horses are really good listeners and they're not going to tell.
No,
They can keep a secret.
They do keep the secrets, but
Mhm.
they are going to know everything.
Of
You're
course
not
they
going to
are.
have any secrets. That's one thing about that. When you come onto the scene, I mean, if you think you're going to keep a secret from them, good luck with that. They know. They know.
It's amazing. Yeah, they are so sensitive and so aware. And I'm glad you slipped that in there about your book, because tell the audience about the book. I love the name, the title, and tell us about it. What made you decide to write it, and how was that process?
My life's journey of my kind of transformation of shedding this addiction and just having the freedom and the realization of how much really control that we have when we learn how to when we learn that I don't know, when we learn how to better manage our mind, that we can control our thoughts, that it's not just stuff happening to us, that we have responsibility, that when we take responsibility for our thinking, then we can control our results. It's unbelievable to me that, I mean, I just think that every day I'm just like, it's like Shane against life. It's like, how good can we be? Because I think, Cheryl, that it's like that we're just scratching the surface and that there's so much available. I mean, I wish I could live another 200 years, because I think that it's just going to be an ongoing thing, and it might be, maybe it's like that after, I don't know, but it's pretty exciting while I'm alive, because there's just so much available, and so that's what I want to say. And the two things, and so I wrote the book. It's close to being released anytime soon. I just barely got it done, and it's the title is The One Horse Race. And what it means is, like, the one horse race, it means when we typically this phrase means, it's in horse racing, and what it means is, out of all these horses, really there's only one, because he's so good and he's so fast. And the title of the book means, in life, it's not all that other stuff that's happening out there, and it doesn't matter who else is in the field. This is the one horse race, right? It's us. And so how can we get the things we want, and how can we become the things we want, and how can we make it through this life with more meaning, more fulfillment, and more, joy in our hearts? And what I've, through the lessons that I've learned, and mostly through horses, I boiled this thing down to two things. It's very simple. Number one is a commitment to our self-image, of how we think about ourselves. I know that it is probably that it is, bar none, the most important thing that we're going to do is to develop, make a commitment to an ongoing, to continually work to improve our relationship with ourselves. Okay. So it's how we think about ourselves, how we view ourselves, that basically you can boil that down to so what does that even mean? What is that? How do I have a relationship with myself? I don't get that. What it means is basically two things. It's the thoughts and the words that we say about ourselves, and then how we treat ourselves as a result of that. How we treat ourselves, how do we take care of ourselves? And it begins with our thoughts and our words about ourselves. Okay. When we have a solid belief that we are worthy, that I am not less than, that we're equal. I'm not more than, but I'm not less than. You're not less than, you're not more than, that we're all on the equal plane. When I know that, that's a really solid beginning. But I have to at least know I'm to the bar. I'm to the equality, right? I'm okay. There's nothing wrong with me because of whatever. We've all done these things in our life, or maybe just like I described, I don't know why, right? But a lot of us have done things that we feel guilt, we feel shame. We don't want to tell anybody. It's like, I can't even tell you right now, Cheryl. some of the things that I've done there, I just can't even say the words to myself because I'm
Mm-hmm.
buried in this shame. What's going on is affecting all of my relationships and all of the results that I'm getting in my life. If I can become okay with me, if I can make that be okay, and it is okay, if I can understand that and I can like me and I can really like, I love me, man. I am I am probably my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I develop that and do that, the better outcomes I get. And I don't even think it's a good idea because we're going to be better off for it. I think it's our damn duty as human beings, because unless we do that, we are not able to contribute to the world and to the people closest to us, or to anyone else, to the capacity or to the God-given ability that we have, until we do that. That's how serious this deal is. Okay, so that's number one. That's part one. Part two is once that we have that, and okay, just no, I said once we have that, but what I'm saying is once we have a commitment, because this isn't something like, hey, I got it, I'm there. This is something that, oh man, I need to work on this, how I'm feeling about me right now. You know, it's a process in life. It's an ongoing commitment to be in this relationship. It's the same one as I have with you. It's not perfect every day, and sometimes I question it, and I have to continually work at it, because if I don't work on my relationships that I have with you, it's going to eventually disintegrate. Same thing. This isn't something that you arrive at and it's over. Just wanted to make that point. That's part one. Part two, I seem to be having this thing, but I'm still here with you. I apologize for my camera. I'm right here back with you. The next part is, I need to work on personal responsibility. And personal responsibility is it's a massive. I thought it was very simple. I just thought it was to kind of look inward, and it is, but it encompasses so much of our lives. When we really realize that we're the ones driving the show, and that we can control our outcomes. When we hear that and we say it, it's like, well, I can't control my circumstances, but I can control me. But when you look at it, it includes forgiveness. Okay. Forgiveness is about, it's not about you. I'm going to grant you something. It's about me. And it is my responsibility to me to do that. Personal responsibility that basically says that probably the best book is, Extreme Ownership, by these veterans, that describe that no matter what is going on around you, the only thing that really matters is, what can I do about this right now? When you start to view life like that, when something happens, instead of going da 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 da, if they would have da da da, on and on, if I just immediately develop a habit of whatever comes my way, if I stop and say, okay, what can I do about this now? Then I'm able to progress. But when I do not do that, the more that I do this, and I see this in life, it so blatantly in life. I hire a lot of young kids in my horse feed business. I see, I'm out there in the world just like you and the rest of the world, and it's very easily to see that it's always it's easy to blame, because it's so much easier. See, we think it's easier, but that's a trick. It's really not easier. It's easier to blame somebody else in the moment, but what we're doing is, once we do that, we've stopped our progress. You talk about empowerment and interpersonal power, and how we do that. And how we do that is, the first thing that we do is we say, I can do this, and it's up to me. And then once I do that, once I have that thought process, then I'm able to progress, and otherwise I'm just stopped up. Those are the two main points. They're both big subject, but we've kind of scratched the surface on the two, because I believe that if you understand and you commit to work on these two principles alone in life, you might not have everything, but I think that you're doing excellent and you're moving forward in progress if you can cultivate those two principles.
I want to give you an example, Shane, that when you just said, it's your responsibility to do this. I was a chronic pain patient for 2.5 years when I was in my mid-30s. And I was told, like at about the 2.5 year mark, that I would never recover, I would never be able to do my laundry and my grocery shopping both at the same time in the same day because the arthritis in my spine was so severe I would end up being bedridden. I was also told to start applying for disability because I was going to need it. And I was also told that I would never have the life I had before. I would never have the life that I wanted. And I was 36. So I went home, hit rock bottom. About 2 days later, I had this mental head smacking moment. And it was like, wait a minute, this isn't up to them to fix you. It's up to you. You need to figure out what's going on and you need to fix yourself. So I actually fired my entire medical team, stopped taking the medications, stopped doing the stupid exercises and stretches that the therapists gave me. And I can say that now because I am a PT myself. And I just taught myself how to move again. And I added acupuncture. That's the only other thing I did. And within like 9 months, it was a long, arduous journey, but I was pain free. If I would have listened to them, if I had really embodied that label they were putting on me, where would I be right now? We would not be having a conversation.
That is an awesome, great story, and that's exactly it. That is super powerful. And the moment, the thing that changed in your story that I heard was the moment that you said, not them, me, then that's when the progress was able to happen for you. That's awesome.
And it is kind of interesting because 20 years later, I had a little bit of a flashback, not in a good way. I mean, not in a bad way, but in a good way. And I remembered the day that doctor told me that. And I even remember because she laughed in my face when I told her I was going to go back to ballet class. And she's like, wait a minute, you don't understand this. You are a chronic pain patient. You always will be. But so 20 years later, let's fast forward. I realized, oh my goodness, I can't do my laundry and my grocery shopping all in the same day because 5 days a week, I would go off in the morning to a professional level ballet class. And then 3 times a week after that ballet class, I'd drive across town and go to the dojo and take a martial arts class for an hour and a half.
Awesome.
And it was like, wow, I kind of like where this landed.
Yeah.
And it's compared to what it could have been.
It had to, when people are telling you that and laughing in your face, it's important, it's like Darren LaCroix said, and you have to rely on you have to use your courage, you have to use your commitment and use your courage like you talked about. That's awesome.
And your inner horse sense.
That's right.
And when you were talking, and you were getting very enthusiastic about, how much there is in life, and just want to grab it all, want to live another 200 years. It was just your passion, your enthusiasm was really contagious. And all I could think of was, and I think you'll appreciate this phrase, grab the bull by the horns.
Yeah. Amen.
Okay, so now tell us about your podcast. A little bit about that.
Appreciate that. We're just launching the Horsemanship Journey podcast. We're pretty excited about that, just getting going. We intend to have it a long-term weekly podcast. We're just launching that, have a lot of great guests, have myself, not a guest every week, but we have guests 2 to 3 weeks a month, and then just little old me. So we're excited about to be launching that first of the year.
So this is new.
Yeah.
Okay.
Previously we also have, as part of our program, I went around for a couple of years during right after COVID or during COVID and interviewed 75 of the top horsemen and women in the world, and also horse professionals and also experts in human development. And that is part of the Horsemanship Journey show, which is separate, which we have as a part of our supplement with our coaching.
Wow, that's just fantastic. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to share with the listeners where they can find you. So I want you to give us some of the links that would be the easiest for them to connect with you. Of course, as you know, all the links are going to be in the show notes. And once that book goes live, we're going to add that link to the show notes as well. So how can the listeners get a hold of you?
Appreciate that. Yep. thehorsemanshipjourney.com. Always the best, easiest there. We're on all media. I think we're on everywhere at the Horsemanship Journey: Facebook, Instagram, X now, YouTube,
and Twitter,
LinkedIn. Shane Jacob.
I didn't know you were on LinkedIn.
Everywhere.
Okay. You are everywhere. So if people cannot find you, they're not looking.
They're not looking too hard.
Shane, it has been an honor to have you on the show. I have loved this conversation. And like I said, I just want to go out and find a horse right about now.
Thank you so much for your time, Shell. I really appreciate it.
Do you
Appreciate
have
you having me.
one final pearl of wisdom you want to leave the listeners with to mull over before we close?
I guess I do. The last thing that I would, and I appreciate that. Thank you again. Um, the thing of it is if I have a message to you, my message to the world is that if those when those days come along and you're feeling bad, or you're really wondering, or you don't know, or maybe you just don't know what's important, I am here to tell you, I know, and I need you to know that you're worth it. You are worth it, man. Your value is immeasurable. You are invaluable. Know that, operate on it, begin to believe it, and trust me on this. Just begin to talk to yourself in positive ways. If you catch yourself saying something, oh, I'm such an idiot, or just little stuff like that, just catch yourself and stop it. Treat yourself like your best friend. It's going to have the biggest impact on you and everyone around you. I promise you're worth it. And that's what I have to
Thank
say.
thank you so much for saying that, because that is so true. Even just a small little slight or self-denigration, even in jest, our brains are recording that, and it's not really good for our physical and mental health and well-being.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for all of your wisdom and your horse sense.
Very good. Thank you again.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Please do share this episode with everyone you know, and think about some of the amazing things that Shane said. Great tips, great advice. And remember, do not denigrate yourself, even in jest, because our brains are always listening. Be nice to yourself and love yourself with all your heart. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.